Okay, we're live here today. Thank you for tuning in. So you're probably wondering why Enos is not interviewing today. So he has a little bit of a voice issue and he can't really talk right now, so I'm taking over for today. And we have a very special guest. It is my uncle, Dan. Dan, introduce yourself. So you grew up Amish like I did, and you're also a Hirschberger?
Yep.
Dan
My name's
Hirschberger?
Dan Hirschberger.
Okay.
I am Lavina's uncle.
One of my favorites.
One of your favorites.
One. I can't just pick one, so I just say one of my favorites.
Gotcha.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you grew up. Like, what do you guys do for entertainment when you were a little kid?
There was a lot of things we did for entertainment as a kid. Some of the stuff I remember is jumping in the hay mow, or catching chickens and taking them up on top of the silo and letting them fly off.
I feel like that was kind of mean because they're not meant to fly that far.
No, they'd flap their wings.
They probably did their best because I think we did that too, but we were not supposed to do it, so if we were caught, then we knew we were in trouble.
Yeah, no, that was one thing we did for entertainment. Another thing we used to do a lot is make homemade bow and arrows and pretend like we're hunting. We would sneak back to the neighbor's woods, and he had some old cars back there, so we got this genius idea one day that we're going to take some gasoline and a motor battery back there. We got caught. He did not care for that too much. He kicked us out. He chased us home real fast.
Did he understand that you were just being little boys, or did he blame your parents?
I don't really recall. I don't think he ever said anything to Mom and Dad about that. I think he probably just understood that we were just being nosy little boys and kicked us out of his woods and told us to get home and don't ever come back.
He probably, deep in his heart, thought it was a little bit funny.
I'm guessing he did, but
yeah,
it didn't seem like it at the time.
Did y'all ever try to set your little play wagon up with a motor?
Yeah, we did that quite a few times when Mom and Dad were gone. We would try to put like a 5-horse Honda motor, set it up with a V-belt going down to the wheel. We never thought about until after I had left that we could have just bolted a pulley onto the side of the wheel and put a V-belt on that, and that would have worked really great, but we always tried to figure out how to keep that belt on that little wagon wheel, so it very seldom did it work great, but there was a few times where we had that thing going pretty fast. I don't know, it might have been 20 miles an hour, but this thing was fast. We had it out on the road until the cop drove by there and made sure we know we're not supposed to be on the road with anything like that. So he told us to get our butts back home.
Yeah, I remember we did that one time. We lived in a valley, so we had to go uphill if we wanted to get on the road. Now our wagon never made it up the hill. It always stalled about halfway home. But we never had the cop catch us. So not sure the cops in our area would have really cared anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are kind of back in there a little ways.
Yeah, back in the sticks.
Yeah.
So you said when your mom and dad were gone. I feel like a lot of these adventurous stories happened when mom and dad were gone.
Yes. Yeah, that's when we get to play around. Otherwise, it's do your chores.
Yeah, isn't it do your chores while they're gone, too? And you just...
Yeah. You find shortcuts.
Or you wait until you know they're almost home and then you finally find a second gear.
Yeah, you put it in overdrive.
Yeah. So you guys grew up with a silo or with silos, and you guys made hay and silage and stuff like that. What was that like?
It was not fun. I never cared for it. Farming was never my cup of tea. I was always wanting to be out, gone, doing construction or something different than farming, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was always just super hard work, and we could never figure out why we are over here farming 40 acres and it takes us a month, and the neighbor's got 160 acres and he comes in there in one day. It's all plowed and ready to plant. It takes him 2 hours to plant when it takes us 3 days. And so, yeah, farming was never what I enjoyed doing.
Did you guys ever milk cows to sell the milk?
Yeah, we did that from a very young age. From the time I can remember. I mean, I remember at 5 years old, you were up in the morning milking cows. You had, as a 5-year-old, you had some of the older, well-trained cows. Those would be your cows to milk. So you'd have up to 3 cows to milk in the morning, and then you're in and eat breakfast. And if you're going to school, it's bam, run to school, and then you come home and do it all over again. At 5, it's just a rinse and repeat.
And the only difference was Saturday when you didn't have to go to school, and Sunday when you had to do it before church.
Yep. Yep.
How many cows do you guys have at the most that you remember?
The most cows we ever milked was pushing 30. That would have been, I think there would have been, at that time, we would have probably had around 8 milkers, maybe even a little more. But we would average from having the milk from 2 to 5 cows each by hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is by hand. This is not with
milk.
milk.
When I'm talking milkers, I am the milker,
same.
Physically milking the cow.
I still love milking cows, but I never had to do more than 2 at a time.
Yeah. Milking cows, it wasn't, I don't think that was super hard. But we didn't have that many cows for long. It seems like it was only probably 3 years that we had that amount of cows. And then, about the age of, age of 12, I think it was, the neighbor, our non-Amish neighbor down the road, he milked, he had a dairy barn where he milked probably, I don't know, was it 60 cows? And me and my younger brother Enos, we would go there every morning and help him with his cows. We'd milk and do chores, and then he'd come pick us up. That was the fun part, because we'd get to ride in a pickup truck every morning for a couple minutes.
I remember Dad telling us that.
Before school and after school, and yeah.
It was like the highlight of your day.
That was the highlight of the day. He drove, I remember it always seemed so confusing to me, because he drove a stick shift, and he'd always be moving that stick around. I'm like, what? I mean, I couldn't figure out where he's putting, or how he's figuring out where to put it, but
that's still me when I see a stick shift. I have no idea how stick shift worked. I would love to learn, but I have no idea how it works.
Yeah, well, if you want to learn, go buy one and drive it.
I'm not that committed to learning.
It's easy. It's actually super easy. One of my first cars I bought after I left the Amish was a stick shift. Did I burn the clutch up? Yes, I did, but I learned the lesson. You don't try to do a burnout with a front-wheel drive car and a stick shift, or not power brake, because we were out, just tearing around because we finally had a car. And trying to do a power brake, well, with a power brake, it locks the front tires up. Well, with a front-wheel drive car and a stick shift, it don't work quite as well as it does with a rear-wheel drive. So I bought the car, I don't even think I had 100 miles on it before I burnt the clutch up.
Oh my goodness. How do you wait? I don't know how stick shift works, but I feel like burning a clutch out in under 100 miles would be really rough.
Well, it was rough. We were doing quite a few burnouts and tearing around, and well, I mean, I think I was fairly good at driving a stick at that time already, because I had drove a little bit of stick shift when I was still Amish. Our neighbor, when I was about 16 years old, we used to help him quite a bit, and he had a 5-speed Chevy diesel, and any chance we got, we would move that thing around on the farm, so we kind of got the feel of how it would work. And
You were being a little naughty.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what happens when you turn an Amish boy loose. He'll go burn up a clutch in under 100 miles.
Yeah.
So, did things change, like, as you got older on the farm? Like, did it seem to you like things changed? Because from my point of view, like, looking or hearing the stories from my dad and looking at Grandma and Grandpa's life, it seemed like the older you guys got, the more advanced, or the less farming you did, the more
Yeah, definitely, because
production.
The older we got, the harder it was to make a living on a 30 cow farm and 40 acres. Or we actually had 80 acres, but we only farmed like 40 of it. 40 of it was pasture for our cows and the horses. So yeah, it did change. I mean, I remember by the time I was 16, we were down to probably maybe 8 or 10 cows. And we were still farming the 40 acres, but we had we would feed heifers for a guy. He would always. It was a contract. I don't remember exactly how it all worked, but it was a contract that him and Dad had. That Dad would buy X amount of steers or heifers from him every fall. We would feed them, fatten them out until the next spring or summer, and then he would buy them back at a certain price.
Okay.
So yeah, we did. Instead of milking, we were doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
And
did you do any construction? Like, did you ever go to work construction with your dad, or was that just after you left the Amish?
No, I did construction with my dad. Shoot, I started going with him when I was 8 years old.
Okay, so he did construction on top of farming.
Yep. Yeah, we did construction and farming. It wasn't like full time or anything, obviously, at 8 years old. It was just in the summertime when we weren't in school and Dad needed extra help. I was always the one that had more guts than brains, I think. So whenever he needed somebody to crawl up on something,
Yeah.
I had no fear. So, but yeah, at 8 years old, back then we would carry all the shingles up the ladder. So, nowadays you either have a lift there or the boom truck that delivers them will stack them on the roof so they don't have to carry them up the ladder. But back then everything just got dropped on the ground, so we would have to carry everything up the ladder. Well, a lot of that was my job. I know your dad helped, but he used to always be the one up on the roof, making a bet that I bet you can't carry a full bundle at a time, and that's all I needed was a little motivation like that. I'll give you 25 cents or I'll give you $1 if you can carry a full bundle at a time. That was his way of getting out of work, because I would bust my back trying to get that shingles up on the roof. And
didn't him and Mosey do that to you a lot? Bet you stuff, and so just so you do it.
Yep, they did
Too older.
That, or they would. Your dad was really good at conning me with chewing tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
he would always like, oh, if you do this, I'll let you have a dip. If you do that, I'll let you have a dip. Like your dad, I'm sure you know.
Yes.
He loved to sit around and read books. He was super huge on reading books. I mean, he'd be driving his horse and buggy down the road, or the horse would be running down the road. He wasn't doing much driving, but he would be sitting there with a book, reading a book. Like,
I inherited that. I did that too.
I did not inherit that. I tried it. I still read. I read very minimal, but I do read daily, and it just doesn't come easy for me. It's, for me, instead of reading a book, if I'm listening to that book, I get more out of it than if I'm reading, because I don't know why but I'm such a slow reader.
Yeah.
By the time I get to the bottom of the page, a lot of times I forgot what the top of the page was talking about.
I think that also has a little bit to do with our education, because we're taught to read, but they're all taught on one level, so you don't get any special help if you can't read as good as the others. You're either left behind or you stumble along.
You're talking about
being in school.
Being in school, you only get one teacher.
Yeah, you get one chance at it.
Well, I don't think I'm a bad reader.
Yeah,
I just think I'm a slow reader.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's totally, like, not everyone can.
Yeah.
For me, I can listen to audiobooks and stuff like that, but I need to read so it soaks in.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, see, it's done for me. I'm the opposite. Listening to it, it soaks in a lot easier than if I'm reading it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do read. I do get a lot out of what I read because I stay disciplined in making myself read. But yeah.
Dad loves reading. He's a deacon, so he gets to read a lot and
he's a deacon.
Talk publicly.
He's a deacon at the church.
Did you ever hear him?
No, I never did. I always wanted to go because he was, I had left long before he was ever a deacon. I always thought it'd be kind of fun to go show up at an Amish church where he's at and just listen to him. I don't know would he freak out or not, but
I don't know. I have no idea what he would do. I know he would if I would show up, but I have no idea if he would.
I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you when you left the Amish? How old were you when you left? I don't think I know that.
I was 17 when I left.
17.
Yep. It was actually, it's coming up here in the next couple of weeks to 20 years now.
So you left in the spring?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Left, I forget, was it on the 17th of March, I think it was, that I left? Yeah.
So almost,
yeah,
it's almost your anniversary.
Yeah, 20-year anniversary.
Okay, so when is your birthday in?
June.
So you were almost 18, or
Yeah, I was close to 18, yep.
Yeah. So you were not just turned 17.
No,
A little bit to go to your legal age, because I know some of them leave at 16 and have a couple of years until they can even get their driver's license. So.
Yeah. I mean, even though I left at almost 18, it still took me 3 years to get my get my driver's license. So I was born at home. And, a lot of the Amish, they do a home birth. So I never had a birth certificate. Nobody even knew I existed except the people that knew me. Never had a social security number. So after I left, I was trying to get my birth certificate. You just keep running in the walls. It's a lot of catch-22. Well... To get your birth certificate, we want to see your social security number. You don't understand. I need my birth certificate so I can get my social security number. And it's just a bunch of back and forth, and then, never being registered with the state. Went through a lot of back and forth with the county and the state, and mom and dad, and they weren't gonna help, and they finally did end up after about, golly, 2.5 years, I think it was. They finally did end up. I finally came down and I was like, Mom, I'm not coming back just because you guys don't help me. I said, I will figure it out one way or another. But I said, I do want my birth certificate so I can get my driver's license. I said, but I'm not coming back just because you guys aren't helping me with this. And they finally stepped in and signed the paperwork. And actually, after they took over, it was like within 3 to 6 months I had a birth certificate.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have all I didn't, you might think it's bad, but I didn't even know my parents' birth date
No.
I mean,
like,
I didn't know how old they were, so I was on a lot of those things, and it's not like I can just pick up the phone and be like, hey, Mom, when was your birthday? Or where did you guys get married, or where were you born, or, I couldn't pick up the phone and call them because they didn't have a phone. Well, and for probably the first 6 months after I left, I didn't have a vehicle to drive, but I finally had a friend that bought a vehicle and put it in his name, and then I was able to drive.
You went freewheeling without a license for a while.
I did.
I think, isn't it illegal? I don't know. Is it illegal to have a child and not get them a birth certificate?
I don't know. I
have no idea, but I feel like it could be breaking some kind of law. I don't know, and that was years and years ago. So
yeah, I don't know what. I guess it.
Because I know.
I think it might be up to the parents whether they want to or not. I don't know. I have no clue, but whether they want to get them a birth certificate or a social security number. I'm sure the government wants everybody to get a birth certificate and social security number because that's more social security money for them.
Yeah, I don't know what made Mom and Dad do it, but I don't know whether they just learning from example that they should do it because of the way Grandma and Grandpa did things. Because I know Dad had a problem. Like when he was born, they didn't get him one either. So after he was married and everything, he was born in Canada.
Yo.
He wanted to go back to Canada to visit, and he needed his birth certificate to get across the border, so he had to get his birth certificate. And it was apparently a hassle for him too, but probably not as much because he had the cooperation of Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is he had a birth certificate, but he wasn't a dual citizen.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Because they would have had to have a birth certificate to get him out of Canada.
Yes.
So he had his Canada birth certificate, I'm guessing. Because I know, like, all my other siblings that were born up there that left the Amish had that same problem.
Yeah.
After they left, they had their United States birth certificate, or they had a birth certificate, but they weren't dual citizens. So I know my oldest brother, he actually ended up without driver's license here about 3, 4, 5 years ago. He ended up with no license for about 6 months because of it, because there's quite a I don't know for sure what they all got to go through, but it's quite a process to get through to get that dual citizenship.
I know one time my dad went to Canada to visit, and at the border, the person apparently wasn't having the best day, told him that he can't get across without his photo ID. And then someone else stepped up and was like, he's good to go. He can go across. And on the way down, the person again was not the happiest and told him that he can never go to Canada again without a photo ID. And I know Dad is going to Canada again without a photo ID.
Yeah, somehow the Amish get across there.
I know, and I think it's because they come in on bus loads.
Yeah.
And the Border Patrol or whatever is used to Amish.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of times if you're if you happen to be in a certain place, because I know Grandpa one time, I think he forgot to take one of his documents along or whatever. They were on the way out for a funeral, and it was like a whole bus load. And they handed the whole stack of documents in for them to check them. And so the people like just kind of look through them. And it just so happened that they caught Grandpa, noticed Grandpa's missing documents, and there were other people with no documents, and they didn't notice it.
Uh-huh.
It's like they're not that strict about it.
Yeah.
When it comes to Amish, I know Amish gets through a lot of things because of their clothes and their reputation and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you guys left the Amish and you got married to a non-Amish person, a person that wasn't Amish, which doesn't always happen. So you have a different experience than some people too.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Did Grandma and Grandpa accept her, or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, my experience was the process of leaving. Is that what you're?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess from a very young age, I think I had made my mind up at about age 12 already that someday I was going to leave and try it out. Whether I'm going to like it or not, I'm at least going to try it. Because I could never make sense of why we're doing what we're doing. Because every time I'd ask Dad, the one thing that I don't know why it stands out to me so much, but it always bothered me that we had to wear black shoes. And I had a nice pair of tan shoes. Or they were kind of like a yellowish tan. Maybe like the color of this table. And no, you cannot wear these without dyeing them. I'm like, well, if these shoes are a sin, then the sun is a sin too.
Uh-huh.
So it's about the same color.
Yeah.
And it didn't go over so well, but I could never figure out why, and every time you'd ask a question, you would never get a straightforward answer except this is the way we do it, and that's the way Grandpa did it. And I'm not here to bash the Amish. I think the Amish started with a good intention. I think way back, just like everything else, I believe the Amish started with a good intention. I think after generation and generation handed down, I think that just became more about their rules than what they actually started out with.
They lost their original focus.
Yep, the original focus was lost. And that happens in a lot of different ways. And even in our life, we can start out hot pursuit on something, and after a while, before we know it, we kind of getting drugged down by the weight of the world. And
it's like copying a paper 100 times, and the 100th copy is not as nice as the first one.
Yep. So yeah, from a young age, I knew I wanted to at least try it. And after I left, well, rewind a little bit, because as a teenager being Amish, there isn't a lot to do. I mean, skating and skiing in the wintertime was probably one of my favorite things to do. And I still enjoy it, but we couldn't get together and play cards. We couldn't get together and, just have fun with our parents. That was your parents are doing their own thing and we're doing our own thing. I guess it's instilled in us from a very young age, so we don't even think about it. But
you couldn't just go to your room and play a game of GTA or something.
No, there was no GTA. So from a very, very young age, it's instilled in us. We just go play by ourselves. And looking back now, I have kids. And I like playing with my kids. I like interacting with my kids. And, I guess maybe if I had 13 of them, it would be a little harder to do that, I guess. But I don't. So, anyway, after... So at 16 and a half, that's the big mark. You get the joint to use. And, you think you're on top of the world then almost. You get to go out and be with the big boys. Well, what the big boys do is a lot of partying, and after, that's only fun for so long. You get sick of that. So at about just before I turned 18, I packed up and left, and I remember that night so plain. Oh man, we planned it on a Wednesday night, and we planned it on a Wednesday night.
Who was playing it with you?
Well, there was a guy that was picking me up.
Oh, okay, yep. Yeah, I did it different, so thanks for explaining that.
Well, I'm leaving part of the detail out, but that's not that important.
Yeah.
Anyway, we planned on a Wednesday night. We were going to leave Saturday night. And a buddy of mine was going to pick us up. And, boy, I was super excited. I mean, those were the 3 longest days of my life. I mean, yes, I felt bad for my parents. Yeah. But I was so excited that I'm finally gonna do what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave, and I'm finally doing it. And so, age 17, I had a couple T-shirts. So I remember it was Saturday night, so they thought I was just going out, was on a date with my horse and buggy, and I put on, what did I have, like 3 T-shirts that I put on underneath my Amish clothes. And I may have had a pair of pants too. I think I put them in a grocery bag and threw them out the window, and then after I went outside I picked them up or something. But anyway, I went down to the shop, and at that time I already had a phone, because I had a phone when I was Amish. And so I texted him, we were communicating, and he told me where he's at. So I grabbed my tool belt, because I was doing construction, so I grabbed my tool belt, and I ran down the road about a quarter mile and sat in the ditch, and he came and picked me up and took off out of there.
And you were gone.
I was gone.
The end of an era.
Yep, the beginning of a new era.
Isn't it? I always feel like it's kind of telling that in order to get away from that, we have to do it in the dark. Just like everything else that we do, it has to be done in the dark.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot that goes on in the dark.
Among the Amish.
Among the Amish youth, yeah.
Because my dad is a deacon, they often, after dark, him and the other ministers of the church will go out and have a meeting somewhere. It's always after dark. I don't know what it is with them and their cover of darkness, but like their dating style, everything is after dark. Like,
yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
Oh my goodness, is it ever? I don't know how they don't see how it lines up with the darkness in their life.
Yeah. Yeah, I've pointed it out to your dad, and I think he sees it. He just feels like he can't do much about it. He's by himself.
Yeah. I said something to Mom about it several times already, and she's like, I know I don't believe in it, but it's how it's always been. Yep. Like, okay, if you don't believe in it, then maybe just cut yourself off from it. That's how I look at it, but
yeah,
I also have both points of view, so I understand what they're saying.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like the older you get, the harder it is to break free from it.
yes, definitely.
Just grandma, your mom, she broke free from it, but she never broke free like we did. Like she always, like had still, cause grandpa was still Amish.
Yeah, well, she did that mainly just to honor.
Yeah, that's what I
Dad.
meant. Like
Yeah,
she,
because there was a point in her life where she wanted us to teach her how to drive, but nobody really had enough courage
to show her how. Yeah.
let her drive.
Yeah.
So and she'd get around with her golf cart and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and I think that's what I meant. Like once you're married, because they're not just making the decision for themselves anymore. Because if they leave, like grandma did, they still have their spouse, and the Amish
Yep.
won't divorce. Like
yeah,
they won't sign a divorce paper. So you're either always gonna be married and separated, or you're gonna live together, and one is gonna be English, one is gonna be Amish, or one is gonna be non-Amish, and one is gonna be Amish.
yeah.
I just said English again. I have had so many run-ins with my reference of English people that it is not even funny.
Yeah, well, I mean we grow up saying that, so
I know,
it's a
it's
habit to break.
it's something that it definitely sticks. That is for sure.
Mhm.
Like a lot of those habits. Do you ever still sing German in your mind? Like if you're just singing to yourself, do you ever sing in German?
I can't say that I do.
So you're all
I-
English now.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yeah.
That language hobbles me up
Okay.
Like- because I've been gone for long enough. My wife is not Amish. Very seldom do I speak Amish around home. Every once in a while the kids want me to teach them a word or two because they think it's funny. But it trips me up. Like if I'm trying to talk Pennsylvania Dutch to an Amish, and I gravitate towards English really quick because I get so hobbled up. But if I'm around, say for a day, couple hours, probably, and I kind of get back into that rhythm of speaking Dutch, then I can do it easily. But I gravitate towards English a lot quicker. Because there's a lot of words that hobble me up when I'm trying to speak Amish.
So when you, like right after you left the Amish and you were still young and everything, if you went home to visit or home to talk to your parents or anything, did you speak English then or Pennsylvania Dutch?
Oh, I think for the most part we just spoke Dutch to them.
Yeah.
Right after we went back.
Yeah. I think they take it as, like, if you speak English to them, or at least my parents take it as a sign that you're proud if you just speak English.
Oh,
you're proud. Because I remember my older brother left before me. I remember the first time he came back to visit. He spoke Pennsylvania Dutch, but he used a lot of buts and likes. Like in the middle of his sentence, he's like, but, like, but. And after he left, oh my goodness, my younger siblings could not get over it. They made so much fun of how he used but and like. And they do it. We did it for you guys too. Like if you guys showed up and you try and speak or Pennsylvania Dutch, and you'd be like, but like
so
but.
We were your entertainment for a while.
Yeah, like having our ex-Amish relatives come visit was just the highlight of our life. Like,
I'd imagine.
do you remember that winter when my dad had been in the hospital with cellulitis in his leg?
I do vaguely, yes.
You and your whole family, I think, and Aunt Susan, husband, kids, like you guys all showed up with groceries and everything.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that now.
That stayed with us for so long. Like,
yeah, it was, well, I don't think it was my whole family. It was a few of my kids and I.
Yeah.
And then it would have been Dan and Susan, which is my sister and her husband, and I think they had a couple kids as well.
Yeah.
And then my mom.
Yeah.
I believe that was there was quite a few of us that we showed up and brought pizza and groceries. I remember that now.
That earned you guys a lot of respect from my mom and dad.
Oh, really?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Like little things like that, it does not take much for mom and dad to recognize that you guys are actually decent human beings.
Yeah, that we're still human even though we're not dressed
even
like
though,
they are.
Yeah. And they notice every little detail.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, one time an uncle from the other side of my family, my mom's brother, came to visit, and he spoke all German, like Pennsylvania Dutch, while he was there. Like, he did really good. He was talking about something that the Amish usually say in English. Like, Amish pop English words in here and there, where they could use German, but they just use English because it's easier. And he used Pennsylvania Dutch. Like, he didn't use the English version, he used Pennsylvania Dutch. And they, oh my gosh, they were so impressed. Like,
he must have been practicing
they
the whole way down.
I'm guessing he did. They told that story to, like, everyone at church. Like, oh, he was here, and, like, he actually spoke, like, Pennsylvania Dutch, and he said this word in German or Dutch, too. Like,
wow.
it was kind of funny now looking back. I'm like, we made such a big ordeal out of the smallest stuff.
Yeah, well, you don't have anything else to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a sheltered life.
So you said there were 13 of you guys. Where did you fall in?
There's 3 younger than me, so I'm forced to the bottom.
Okay, so number 11? Yeah. No, number 10.
9.
9?
Yeah, 9 plus 4 is 14.
Oh, there were 4 younger than you? Okay.
No, 3 younger than me. But I'd be... No, yeah, you're right. I would be 10th from the top down, yeah.
My math is a little off this morning. But yeah, did that ever, like... Do you think that ever affected you? Like, do you ever, like, feel left out or not included?
There was times, yes. I think there was times I felt like I was maybe left out a little bit. But, you know, it was just the way it was.
Yeah, just the way it was. Like, they were all treated equally.
Maybe not, but...
Some of them were a little better than others. I think, for me, I was one of those that was treated as a favorite, and I hated it. Like, a lot of them would... I don't know. I felt guilty about it. Yeah.
Well, I think, speaking of that, I think, even though I was towards the bottom of the stack, I always felt like my younger 2 brothers got away with a lot more.
Yes.
John, he was like one of them that we always knew that he was just faking a headache, but Mom was like, oh, he has a headache. You guys have to do the chores without him. Like, oh, that little turd.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, John was always one of them that you could be, or maybe it's just the way I remember it, but my memory anyway, you could like be mean to him, like just tease him and get him really, like get him worked up or even hurt him to where he would be crying, and then you'd just go up and tell him, oh, I'm sorry, and then he would like, it would be all good.
Like forgive you on the spot.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like the younger, so I'm at the top of the stack, like the second oldest of 13, and I know me and my older brother always talked about how Mom and Dad don't punish the younger siblings for stuff that they did punish us for. But we got away with more stuff than they did because we got older and we were the parents, basically. Like, we did the discipline because I feel like because Dad was gone most of the time, and so Mom was in charge of everything. And sometimes I think, now that I'm older and I look back, I think she probably sometimes just zoned out, like, just cut herself off, because having 13 kids is a lot, and it's loud, and they fight, and it's...
They don't fight, do they?
No, they're so peaceful. Yeah, 13 kids and see if they fight.
Well, I have 4, so I know what to do.
Yeah, and I think Mom always just like blocked it out because
Yep.
she probably got overstimulated and just couldn't deal with it anymore.
That or she got used to it.
Yeah, or she just didn't
I
care.
know we get accused of that too at our house. That the two oldest ones, they accuse us of not disciplining the younger ones near as much as like if we would have done that, you guys would have. Yeah, we would have got a spanking or something.
I'd say, well, I'm older now. No, I don't know if I'd say that, but I know, like, we got away with a lot of stuff, too. Like, when I was a little kid, me and my older brother got away with a lot of stuff that we shouldn't have gotten away with.
Yeah.
And I know we've told, like, Mom and Dad about it, and now they laugh at it. Back then, they would not have laughed at it.
Yeah, I know as being a younger one, I know from like my age on down in the family, we get accused of getting away with way more than the older ones ever did. Like, I know your dad always, like, if we would have done that,
Yeah.
we would have never gotten away with doing this. We would have never gotten away with doing that like you guys do, but...
I think it's probably also has a lot to do with the fact that the parents get older, more mature.
Yeah, I
'Cause-
think that has a lot to do with it.
I don't know how old I don't know how old Grandma was when they started having kids. I know Mom was 21.
Yeah, and that's a young age.
It is, especially, well, it wouldn't be so bad if they would just have one and then wait a couple of years. But they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they never stop until they're in their 40s.
Yeah, until...
So they have
No
to
longer
basically grow up with their oldest kids. Like,
Yeah, that is a very good point too. At that age, you're still trying to figure out who you are.
yeah,
You're still trying to, maybe mature in a lot of ways.
yes, yeah,
And you're just getting started in life,
yeah, exactly.
and things can get stressful and messy.
Yeah,
Because you're trying to figure this out. You're trying to,
yeah, you're still trying to figure your life out while
Yep.
trying to make a good life for another little human being.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
How old were you when you had your first?
21.
21. So you were 21 when you became a parent too?
Yep.
But then you waited several years.
Yeah, there was a brief pause in there.
I feel like I'm 20, almost 21, and I feel like for me, I'm at the age where I could handle a kid. Like, I could be a mom, but I would need a couple years to recover from the first one before I could even think about
Mhm.
second one, much less start now and stop when I'm 43.
15 later.
I feel like that would be really depressing. If I had that to look forward to, I love kids, but if I had to look forward to that, I would not want to live life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I quizzed my mom on that one time, quite a few years back. Why do Amish think they need to have so many kids? And she said, well, the Bible says that we're supposed to, fill our bushel or whatever, our basket until it's full or something. I'm like, well, that don't mean my basket ain't full at 4. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, it doesn't say you have to have kids until you're dead.
Yep. No one in the Bible does it tell you what the size of your basket is or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Like, it says multiply and fill the earth, but...
You don't have to do it by yourself.
No kidding. Yeah, and I feel like once you have 13 kids, you've kind of made your contribution to, like, growing the population.
Yeah, that's a quick multiplying there.
No kidding,
If you
like-
have 13 and all 13 of your kids have 13, but
Yep. Oh my goodness. How many are? That's
the
like
branch, it starts
imagine
with
the-
one little
family gathering
branch,
with
and
the
there's
grandparents.
lot of roots,
Yep.
lot of
Yeah.
branches.
I always thought of my family on Dad's side is like, well, Grandma and Grandpa were the base,
Yep.
and then each of you guys were like a branch. That's how I kept you guys separate. Was I literally one time drew a tree
Nice.
with Grandma and Grandpa at the bottom, and then you guys, and then your little branches were your kids. Like, that's how I categorize you guys.
The leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyways, this was really nice, and I'm really thankful that you came on here.
Yeah.
I hope you had as much fun as I did.
Honored to be on here.
Good. And thank you for your support. We would love it if you would make sure you're subscribed to the channel and like this video, and we will see you in the next one.